You've probably heard this story before. It goes something like this. NASA still flies Voyager on code written in a programming language nobody alive can read anymore, kept going by a handful of engineers in their 80s, and when they die, the mission dies with them. It's on Reddit. It's in 100 articles. Chances are, you've repeated some version of it yourself. Here's the problem. Almost none of it is true. The code isn't what you think it is. The team isn't who you think it is. And that gap between the story everyone believes and what is actually happening 15 billion miles away is where things get strange. Because the real reason NASA could not build Voyager again today has nothing to do with engineers getting worse. It has to do with 4 things Voyager depended on that quietly stopped existing. Stay with me. Let's start with what everyone gets wrong, one piece at a time. First, the code. Voyager's onboard computers do not run Fortran. They never did. What actually runs inside the spacecraft is assembly language, written specifically for custom General Electric processors designed and fabricated in the early 1970s. Fortran existed, but it lived on the ground, in mission planning software, not inside the spacecraft itself. Second, the team. The image of a handful of engineers in their 80s, the last people alive who understand the machine, is not describing the current mission. Suzanne Dodd, the woman actually running Voyager as project manager, was 16 years old when it launched. She joined the team in 1984. Third, the timeline. Larry Zottarelli, the last original engineer still working on Voyager, retired in 2016 at 80. That framing is now a decade old, so the myth falls apart. What replaces it is not a comforting correction. It is something stranger, because the real scarcity was never the programming language. It is the rare combination of assembly fluency, this exact 1970s hardware, and a willingness to work on something with no manual left to read. Here is where the real story begins, and it starts somewhere you would never expect. Not in a lab, not in space, but in a storage facility filled with cardboard boxes. For nearly 5 decades, Voyager generated documentation. Design specifications, process notes, user manuals, thousands of pages describing exactly how each system worked and why. And over those 5 decades, that documentation was lost, fragmented, or simply left sitting in paper archives as teams reorganized, offices moved, and people retired. But here is the detail that changes everything. When those records were finally sent into long-term storage, they were not indexed by system. They were not indexed by function. They were indexed by employee name. Which means, if you wanted to understand how the attitude control system worked, the system that keeps Voyager's antenna pointed at Earth across billions of miles, you first had to figure out who had worked on it. Across decades of staff turnover. Across departments that no longer existed. Some boxes never made it to that storage facility at all. When engineers retired, an unknown number of documents simply went home with them, into garages and closets, some never inventoried, some never seen again by anyone at NASA. There was never one single master manual containing every system design in one place. So when a critical system began failing, NASA did something almost unimaginable for a modern engineering organization. They started contacting former employees directly. And where those employees had already died, they contacted their surviving relatives, asking a simple, strange question. Did your father, your mother, your husband ever bring paperwork home from work? Linda Spilker, Voyager's project scientist since 2022, has described the reality plainly. There is no playbook for what her team faces now. Because Voyager was never really built by an agency. It was built by a few thousand individual people. and most of what they understood about it was never written down anywhere except inside their own heads. Now let's talk about the second thing Voyager depended on that quietly stopped existing. Its fuel. Every spacecraft ever sent beyond Jupiter, including Voyager, runs on plutonium-238. This is not a substance you can dig out of the ground. It has to be manufactured inside nuclear reactors, then chemically separated, transformed into a ceramic, and sealed into precision heat source modules through a chain of specialized government facilities. In 1988, the Savannah River site, the facility that had produced this fuel for decades, shut down its production line. And when it stopped, the entire chain behind it did not pause. It disappeared. Equipment was decommissioned. Expertise dispersed. For years afterward, the United States simply bought what it needed from Russia. That arrangement ended in 2010, when the last shipment arrived. After that, for 5 years, America had no working source of the one material that makes deep space missions possible. Then, in December of 2015, Oak Ridge National Laboratory finally produced new plutonium-238 on domestic soil for the first time in almost 30 years. The amount they produced was 50 grams. Sit with that number. It took the United States 27 years to rebuild the capability to make 50 grams of this fuel. And even now, the material already sitting in storage is not simply waiting patiently. Plutonium-238 has a half-life of roughly 87 years, which means every single year, close to 1% of it decays away, whether it is ever used or not. As of 2026, NASA and the Department of Energy have finally scaled toward their production target of 1.5 kilograms per year. But that supply chain, once broken, took decades to even partially rebuild. Now, here is the third thing quietly failing, and it is not on the spacecraft at all. It is on the ground, here on Earth. To hear Voyager, NASA relies on the Deep Space Network, a system of giant radio antennas positioned around the planet. And according to NASA's own Inspector General audit in 2023, that network is currently oversubscribed by as much as 40%, with demand projected to exceed capacity by 50% sometime in the 2030s. Parts of this network were built in the 1960s. One antenna in particular carries an almost unbelievable amount of weight. DSS-43, located in Canberra, Australia, is the only antenna on the entire planet capable of sending commands to Voyager 2. Not one of several options, the only one. In 2020, it had to be taken offline for 11 months of upgrades because its components, some nearly 50 years old, had become increasingly unreliable. For almost a year, no commands could be sent to that spacecraft at all, and the problems have not stopped. On September 16, 2025, one of only 3 70-meter dishes on Earth, located at Goldstone, California, physically over-rotated, damaging cabling and piping and flooding its own base. It remains offline, with no return expected before 2028. The program meant to fix all of this, started back in 2010, is now years behind schedule. Its cost ballooning from $419 million to over $700 million. Full capability across the network isn't expected until at least 2029. Which leaves us with a strange, quiet truth. Voyager itself is 49 years old and still working. It is the equipment we built to listen to it that keeps breaking down. Now, before this story tips too far into loss, there is something that needs to be said, plainly, because it is just as true as everything else here. In 2023, Voyager 1 started sending back a signal that made no sense. Not silence, not garbage exactly, but a repeating, unreadable pattern over and over for 5 months. Engineers eventually traced the problem to a single memory chip inside the flight data subsystem. It had failed after decades of exposure to cosmic radiation. Roughly 3% of the spacecraft's memory was gone, and that specific region happened to contain part of the software's own operating code. There was no way to replace the chip. There was no single free block of memory large enough to hold that code in one piece anywhere else. So the team did something the original 1970s engineers never once had to attempt. They broke the program into smaller fragments, hid those fragments in scattered, unused corners of the remaining memory, and then rewrote every internal reference so those scattered pieces would still function together as one continuous program. On hardware built in the Nixon administration, sitting 24 billion kilometers away, with every single command taking 2 full days to send and confirm. They transmitted the fix on April 18th, 2024. On April 20th, it worked. Say that plainly. The people who originally built Voyager never had to perform anything like that. This generation did, and they succeeded. The loss described throughout this story is real, but it is structural, not a failure of skill. Nobody here got worse. They just inherited a harder problem. So where does that leave us? Ed Stone took the job of Voyager's project scientist in 1972, 5 years before launch, and held it for 50 years, the only person who ever did, even while running JPL for a decade in between. He died in June of 2024 at 88, having watched both spacecraft leave the solar system entirely. Larry Zottarelli, the last of the originals, went home in 2016. NASA could not build Voyager again today, not because anyone got worse, but because it was never really built by an agency. It was built by a few thousand people, and most of what they knew now lives nowhere except inside their own heads. If you worked on Voyager, or anything from that era, and still have the paperwork somewhere, say so below.